Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to install Oracle VirtualBox on your computer and how to install Ubuntu Linux in it. All right, so the first thing you're going to have to do is download VirtualBox from virtualbox.org. I'll put the link down in the description. Um, just whatever is the latest version at that point, you got to download that. So depending upon what operating system you're using, Windows, OS X, Linux, whatever it may be. If you have Linux, you don't really need VirtualBox because, well, all assignments and everything that we do for this class is going to be in Linux anyway. The next thing you're going to need is the VirtualBox Oracle VM VirtualBox extension pack. This is what you're going to need. It's supported for all platforms. You don't need this necessarily, but it does make your job easier if you want to drag and drop files across your VM and your main machine. So I'm going to go ahead and download this onto my computer. You probably cannot see the save file window. That's simply for privacy reasons. So I'm just going to download that. Once you're done with that, we're going to go ahead and install it. Now, once you're done downloading everything that you need to install a VirtualBox, you're going to go ahead and double click on the setup file first. This is the window that'll open up. Now you can leave everything as is. If you want, you can change the location of the install, but I don't recommend you touch anything if you don't know what all of these things are. Just leave them as is. You can leave all of these things as it is, but or you can change them as you want. I would suggest leave register file associations checked. Everything else is simply optional. And of course, then it's going to ask you whether you want to proceed with installation now, and it will reset your network connection and temporarily disconnect you from the network. Nothing's going to happen. Don't worry about it. And just click yes. And now just click install and it's going to start installing. Just give it a sec. Should be done pretty quickly.
A few moments later.
And once that's done, you're going to get this dialog, which is start Oracle VM VirtualBox after installation. You click finish and you're going to get your Oracle VirtualBox window right here. Now, if you notice, I've got two virtual machines already created here. Now, the only reason I have them is because I've created them before. For you, this here might be entirely blank. We'll be creating our virtual machines from scratch. The next thing we got to do is download some version of Ubuntu, which we need to install in our virtual machine. So I would recommend you install Xubuntu. You may install the regular Ubuntu if you really want. You just go to ubuntu.com and you click on download and click on the LTS version for Ubuntu desktop. Do not download server or IoT. We don't need those. But I would still recommend you stick to Xubuntu because it's a lighter version of Ubuntu, which will take up a lot fewer resources when running a virtual machine. Because remember, a virtual machine is basically an entire computer running within your computer. It's a virtual computer, right? So let's hit the download button right here. And here you can use the torrent system to download, or you can, if you don't have any kind of torrent client or you don't know how to use it, then you can use one of these mirrors given down here. If you are using one of the mirror downloads, then you have to select the desktop AMD 64 ISO. You may or may not be using an AMD machine, but that's irrelevant. The one which you're looking for is the 1.6 gigabyte download. And once it's done downloading, we're gonna continue with installing it in our virtual machine. Now that we have Xubuntu downloaded, now we're gonna create a new virtual machine and install Xubuntu in it. So let me just create a new virtual machine here. So just click on new and you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it 20.04.2 because that's the version that we've downloaded. It should select your type and version automatically just based on your name. It's kind of intelligent that way. And you can choose where you want to save it, right? You can click other and it'll open up a dialog for you to select a different place you want to install it in. Don't go into export mode for now. Just click on next. The memory size recommended, it says 1024 MB, which is 1 GB. That's a little low. So depending upon how much memory you have on your computer, I would recommend at least 2 GB. So that's 2048 MB. So we're going to stick to 2048 MB. All right. Now we also need to create a virtual hard drive. So a virtual hard drive is basically where all your data for your operating system is going to go. Now this is a virtual hard drive. So your operating system, so your virtual machine is going to see it as a real hard drive. So you're just going to go ahead and create one. Stick to VDI. Dynamically allocated is good. You can look into what fixed size does, but fixed size is the file size for that virtual hard drive is going to stay fixed, and you don't really want that. Dynamically allocated means if you set a size of say 30 gigs, but you've used only say 5 gigs, and it's only going to take up 5 gigs on your actual hard drive. So dynamically allocated is usually the way to go. They recommend 10 gigs, but I would say set it to at least 20 or so, 20 GB. If you want, you could set it to more, 30, maybe 40 GB, depending upon how much space you have on your hard drive and how much you want to allocate to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do 20 GB and create. All right. So now this is the machine that we've created. You can change settings for this if you really want. One of the things I would recommend you do is go into, just enlarge this a little bit, go into display and max out the video memory to 128. It's just going to make your experience a little bit smoother. It's not going to make much of a difference overall otherwise. You can just go ahead and leave everything else as is. Oh, right. So for processor, so I have a 12 core processor, so I'm going to allocate 4 cores for this system. You can decide to allocate as many processors as you want, but I would recommend, if you have a 4 core system, I would recommend giving it at least 2 cores, right? So I've got 6 cores, so I'm gonna give it 4, right? So there you go. So let's do that, and then we can go ahead and double click on it to start. Once we do this, we need to select a startup disk. So I'm gonna go ahead and add one from here. So this is the one which we downloaded, Xubuntu 20.04.2. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this, and this is the one which you want. So choose this and click start. Now give it a few minutes or a few seconds, and it'll eventually load.
A few moments later.
There you go. So now you're gonna get 2 options, which is try Xubuntu or install Xubuntu. We don't really care about trying it because it is a virtual machine. So if you mess up, you can simply delete it and start over. Whatever you do in this virtual machine is not going to affect your computer, right? So go crazy. So let's do install Xubuntu. You can leave most of this to default. If you have a different keyboard layout by any chance, you might want to change this, but otherwise just leave it as it is. You can select download updates while installing Xubuntu. You may choose not to do that if you don't want to. Installing third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi and all that is not usually necessary for a virtual machine. So we're going to leave it as is and just click continue. You can deselect the download updates while installing if you don't want it. So it's up to you. And of course, it's gonna say it's detected no operating systems. Now you're gonna do erase disk and install Xubuntu. Now remember, like I said before, this is a virtual machine. So everything you do here is only gonna happen within the virtual machine itself. It's not gonna affect your computer. So when we say erase disk, it's gonna erase the virtual, the virtual hard drive, which we just created some time ago, right? So you select this and just click install. Install now and continue. Give it a few seconds and you get your time zone. So we're going to select Los Angeles because that is our closest time zone city. So you're going to do that. You can put in whatever name you want here. So I'm going to put in my own name and whatever password you want. That's entirely up to you. Just make sure it's something that you can remember. You can do a login automatically. I mean, it's a virtual machine, so you can do that if you really want. And then just go ahead and click continue. And then you're gonna have to wait for it to finish installing, and we'll continue the video once that is done.
One eternity later.
Okay, so now that our installation is complete, the only thing we got to do is click restart now. And when it says restart the computer, it actually means the virtual machine. So we're gonna go ahead and click restart now. And give it a few seconds to restart. Don't be afraid if you see any of these messages. It's perfectly normal. And says, please remove the installation medium and then press enter. So in our case, the installation medium is virtual. So it probably has already ejected. What you can see is if you see this little CD icon, right? That's your CD, your virtual CD drive. So now that it's empty right now because the virtual machine auto ejects. You just hit enter and it should start right up. Yeah, it keeps resizing itself. And there we have it. There we have Xubuntu installed. Now I'll do another video about how to set it up for it to look better than this, and we can actually install the VBox editions and everything. So stay tuned. And that was it for setting up VirtualBox and Xubuntu within VirtualBox. Stay tuned for the next video where I will talk about how to install VBox extensions and how to actually make the whole virtual machine full screen. All right.